This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Richard Lopresti, Chairman of the Economic Development Commission for the town of North Haven. We have a very exciting program this morning. For those that were here in April, we had our spring breakfast, and we promised that we would come back in the fall to complete or reveal the results of the Upper Washington Avenue market study. And we're happy to have Alyssa DeJong back this morning, and she will go through the market study and talk about the opportunities that are available for development up in from exit 12 through 13. But first, I would like to thank and recognize our co-sponsor, the Holiday Inn. As you can see in this room, they're going through a renovation period, and I think we would all agree it looks very nice and was time for a bit of a sprucing up. Jennifer was unable to make it this morning. If she is able to come later on, I'll certainly ask her to come up and talk a little bit more about the renovations that are occurring at the facility. As I mentioned, we have a full agenda. You should all have a copy, and you'll see that it's the entire focus is on the Northern Washington Avenue area, and we have some exciting news, which I'll let the speakers get to those. Very quickly, I'd like to recognize some folks in the audience. Our State Senator Len Fasano is here, and our State Representative Dave Yaccarino are here. And then some folks from the town. I'll just go through a few. First of all, our First Selectman Mike Frieda, who will be speaking as part of the agenda. We have our Police Chief Tom McLaughlin, our Fire Chief Finn Landicio. I did not see Stacy, although she might be here later. Our Town Clerk, Ed Swinkowski is here. Lynn Sadowski, Ed is our Director of Finance. Lynn Sadowski, Director of Public Works. And Alan Fredrickson is our Land Use Administrator. There are other staff members here. Feel free to introduce yourself to them. And thank you all for coming. Now I'd like to get right into the program. And with that, I'd like to introduce Robin Wilson, President of the Quinnipiac Chamber. She's going to say a few words. But before she does that, Robin, please come up. Robin, for those who have not heard, has decided to retire after 25 plus years as president of the Quinnipiac Chamber. As she has explained it in the past, she started on a little chair and a folding table, and has brought the Quinnipiac Chamber to its stature of today. And I just wanted to take this minute to recognize your service as our president of the Quinnipiac Chamber and ask for a rounding round of applause.
Whoa, okay. I don't know if you're all clapping because I'm leaving or... Good morning, everybody. This is great to see such a turnout. These programs are absolutely phenomenal. And thanks to the Holiday Inn for co-sponsoring this, and I love what they're doing with the renovations. It's looking terrific. As Rich mentioned, and most of you probably already know and are tired of hearing, I will be retiring. I'll be retiring in steps over the next 7 months. But as I look back over the past it's actually been almost 29 years. I started when I was 5 years old. There's nothing but constant growth in the North Haven area. This town has been absolutely outstanding. Even in the worst economic times, the tax rate has been able to stay low. The school system has remained one of the best. And this is still because of the diversified base in this town, one of the best towns in the state of Connecticut in terms of economic development. And it's really all thanks to wise leadership and economic development commissioners who have led the way in making sure that the right path is taken. So I think we want to say thank you to them. And also, and I've said this many times over the past few years, as we move through one of the most difficult economic times that we've seen, this is one of the longest difficult times that we've gone through. We are very, very fortunate in this town to have for our first selectman, Mike Frieda, who is a businessman first. And he has been absolutely mercilessly working day and night on trying to continue to develop economic development in North Haven in a time that's not so easy to do that. And he's succeeded in ways that deserve tremendous praise. So I thank Mike, I thank everybody in the town that works with Mike, the Economic Development Commission, Rich, and all the people that work with him. And as a president of the chamber and a resident of this town, I think they all deserve a great applause. And I'm very anxious to hear the CERT report as well. Thank you.
Of course, oh, Robin, we gotta raise this thing. Of course, as you leave the podium and you go back, you realize that you forgot to mention a few folks. So I'd like to continue to recognize folks that are in the audience. We have our second selectman, Tim Donahue is here, and Walter Sturts, our third selectman, is here as well. So I'd like to recognize them. Now, as I try to do, is to get you out as soon as possible, so I'm not going to delay, and I'm going to ask Alyssa DeJong to come up, and she's going to present the study. Having seen the draft, I'm excited with the results, and there's certainly going to be some great opportunities, as you will see. And this, I'm looking at this as a catalyst for and a document that the North Haven Economic Development Commission, the Land Use Administrator, and the Planning and Zoning Commission can use and collaborate on. And I'm hoping that we will get together and learn more about how we can collaborate and use this as a document for planning that area. So, Alyssa, if you please come up.
Great, thank you, Richard, and good morning, everyone. It's really nice to be back here this morning. When we presented back in April, we had just started the project and we had some preliminary results, we had some demographics to share with you, but now the analysis is complete, and so we wanted to kind of explain the results and kind of see now what North Haven can do with these economic opportunities. And I also just wanted to mention that my colleague Matthew Ross is here with me today. He was part of the team who worked on this study. So the study included a number of components to the project. And what we wanted to do first was kind of look at what currently existed in this Upper Washington Avenue study area. And then what we did is we wanted to see kind of what the anticipated changes were going to be, and be a bit forward-looking about what some of the economic opportunities could be once some of these changes fully took place. So of course we wanted to kind of figure out what the study area was and what geography we could use to collect the data. And then we collected demographic, industry, and consumer expenditure data. And so we did that to kind of see what was currently happening in this study area, as well as in the larger region of North Haven and the contiguous towns. And then we also looked at kind of the existing use and the retail and the other establishments that are currently along the Washington Avenue, as well as in the surrounding neighborhoods. And then we started kind of looking at some different scenarios. And of course, we're all aware of the big changes taking place at Quinnipiac University. And so we wanted to think about these anticipated population shifts, these additional graduate students who will be in the area every day taking classes, as well as the influx of faculty and staff on campus. We also conducted a retail gap analysis, which means we wanted to see kind of what retail was in the nearby region and what might be well suited for this region and what might be able to fill a gap that this region doesn't already have. We also looked at a housing demand analysis to see if there would be any change in the demand for houses or rental units. And then we finished with what we call a spatial distribution of retail, or what we call a gravity model, which kind of takes that retail gap analysis one step further. And so we looked at the different types of retail we found in the retail gap analysis that seemed to have some promise in the region to kind of figure out, well, if we did locate a retail establishment in this region, would it be estimated to have higher or lower sales than average? And so now I'm going to kind of move on to the next slide here. Of course, what we're trying to do is determine the potential impact on retail demand. And of course, the increase in students and faculty and staff at Quinnipiac is, the current issue that's happening in this region. It's very exciting, and it definitely has will have some positive effects for this region. In addition, and there was an Upper Washington Avenue multi-use development zone already approved to allow for construction of 300 units of housing. So in terms of the key findings for the demographics, we found that North Haven, relative to the state and the nation, tended to have an older population, as well as being more affluent, well-educated, and having a higher rate of home ownership than both the state and the nation. Now, the Upper Washington Avenue area, which is a particular census tract within North Haven, also tended to be older than the state and national averages, but was less affluent and had lower education levels. We think that this is a bit skewed by some of the senior housing options in this census tract. The pie chart here on the right shows that when Quinnipiac is at full capacity in the next few years, when their student enrollment is what it's expected to be, the demographics right in the census tract, right in Upper Washington Avenue, will look quite different. We'll still have about 4,500 residents here in the Upper Washington Avenue area, but Quinnipiac is going to bring about another 2,400 students to campus. Now, it doesn't mean that they'll be living within this census tract, but they will be kind of coming in on a very regular basis to take their classes along with the faculty and staff. So it really could change the economic opportunities in terms of retail and other establishments that this area can support. Now, in addition to the demographic analysis, we also did a regional industry analysis just to see kind of what was growing and what was shifting in the larger region, in the county. Because we just wanted to kind of get a better sense. We didn't want to just focus on the town. We wanted to make sure that we were incorporating some larger areas as well. And so we found that the industries with the highest rates of employment growth, and these actually saw employment growth in the county even during the recession and even through this kind of slow economic recovery. Those include education, healthcare, and finance. Excuse me. And this region also has some a real competitiveness with a few in particular manufacturing industries, and those are precision metal manufacturing and medical devices. And so those are some industries that are really doing well in this county, not necessarily in the state as a whole. We're seeing with education and healthcare, those are growing statewide as well as nationally, and they are too in this region. But this region does have some special growth in those manufacturing industries. Now, in terms of consumer spending, we wanted to see what the current residents are spending their money on, and it's not really surprising that they're going to spend their discretionary spending on food and beverages, on entertainment, on apparel, and on automobiles. And there are some existing retail strengths in this region already that would help meet some of those consumer spending needs. There are auto dealers and a few restaurants. There are some specialty stores, grocery stores, and some office supplies. But there is a little bit of a mismatch here, and you'll see further on that there are some opportunities because of the consumer spending, and then also because of the anticipated influx of the Quinnipiac graduate students. That's really going to affect the demand for some spending. This is just a map of the Washington Avenue area, and it's in the full report, so you can study it to your heart's content there. But what I wanted to show you is just kind of Washington Avenue is here, and you can just see the clusters of businesses along this route. Now, to the west of Washington Avenue, there are a number of industrial uses. There could be some industrial users there. On the east side of Washington Avenue, there's mostly residential uses. And then the northern section of town actually does lack some commercial and retail anchors. And there are some auto dealers up to the northern section of this study area, and they do serve as specialty and destination retail, but they're not creating a lot of repeat customers that we could see with some other types of retail anchors up there. Now, in terms of traffic counts, this is data that we can get from the Department of Transportation. And we weren't out there, we weren't just counting red cars, we were actually counting all different trucks and cars out there on the road. And so what this shows us is that, off of exit 12, off of I-91, there's a traffic count of just over 21,000 cars and trucks every day. But then by the time the cars get to the Wadsworth Avenue, we've seen a decrease in about 4,000 cars and trucks. And so therefore, every day you've got about 4,000 traffic counts that aren't traveling further north. And so there is a potential there. If there was a reason for them to travel north, they're already in the area, and so there's a potential there to capture some of those people passing by as well. So in terms of the retail gap analysis, so this is the first piece, the first step that we did in trying to identify some retail industries that could have some economic growth here in the region. What we did is we looked at kind of those current consumer spending patterns that I showed before, and then we also estimated what the Quinnipiac students would spend their money on as well. We did get some information from Quinnipiac. We did some estimation also just on the types of things that graduate students are spending their money on. And so we found kind of a short list here of some retail industries. Some are focusing more on the local population, like snack bars and dry cleaning and your personal care shops like your barber shops and your beauty and your nail salons. And then some of these retail opportunities are a little bit more semi-regional, so they would serve more than just the local population. They would also draw in additional consumers to come in and spend some money. And those would be the restaurants, some different food stores, and traveler accommodations as well. We wanted to also look at some housing demand and the potential for housing in this region. And so we did receive some data from Quinnipiac just on the number of students that were expected to enroll over the next few years. And then we also had some census data on the number of housing units that are already in this region, how many are being rented, how many are owned. And so we were able to derive an approximate number of residential units that the Upper Washington Avenue area could support based on the expansion of the university. And so we assumed that about 1,000 students would want to live somewhere near a campus, along with about 30 faculty and staff. And there currently are not many units for rent in the Upper Washington Avenue census tract area. So given the population and these anticipated population shifts, it's estimated that the area could support a total of 300 to 600 housing units once Quinnipiac is at full capacity with its student enrollment on the North Haven campus. And since there's already zoning for 300 units just north of Bradley Street, that means that up to an additional 200 to 300 units could be supported. So then what we did after the retail gap analysis and the housing analysis was completed, we conducted a gravity model, and this is kind of taking that retail gap analysis one step further, and we applied it to evaluate which types of retail would be the most productive use in this commercial area. And it highlights the retail sectors that would have the largest projected sales if developed in the census tract. And so you can see that we have, there's a kind of a wide variety here. A lot of them would be focusing on this local population kind of living there, but then there's also some semi-regional destinations as well. So we have the auto dealers again, and gas stations and grocery stores helping the local population. But then there's also home furnishing stores, specialty food services, the traveler accommodations again. These were retail, these were industries that were popping up again in our gravity model analysis. So then what we did is we took all of the information we had from our demographic trends, from the consumer spending patterns, from the retail gap analysis, the housing analysis, and this gravity model, and we put all the information together to come up with a list of what we think are the key opportunities for economic growth. And these are opportunities that could support the growing Quinnipiac population, as well as supporting these additional potential residents who would come in to utilize those housing units. And then as that happens and you have more and more people kind of in this area, it's also going to draw more people to the region, especially if there are some destination type retail. So we did find that banks, pubs, perhaps bookstore, the dry cleaning services, traveler accommodations, restaurants, both full service and limited service, the health and personal care stores, office supplies, specialty food stores, and auto dealers really did seem to have the best opportunity for economic growth in this region. And so this is a very exciting opportunity for the town. So the town now needs to decide which types of uses best fit with its vision for the Upper Washington Avenue area and make sure the features are in place to attract those businesses. And then a planning exercise could help determine what new developments would look like in terms of form, use, and density, and whether additional infrastructure would need to be put in place. There's definitely an opportunity here for some gradual change, especially because of the growth at Quinnipiac. It's important, of course, to take care of the residential components that are already in place in the region, make sure they're not intrusive in any way, and to keep the culture of North Haven in place. So it's important to nurture these changes over time, and so thoughtful planning will definitely be the key to North Haven's success. So with that, is there time for questions?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. It's time for any questions that you might have. Well, my colleague Matthew and I will be here all through the morning in case any questions come up. We'll be happy to answer them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thank
Great.
you very much.
Thank you.
So as you can see, there's great opportunity for Northern Washington Avenue, and as Alyssa mentioned in her slide, we as the North Haven Economic Development Commission really would like to collaborate with the First Selectman's Office, the Land Use Administration, and Planning and Zoning, and get together and come up with a vision that we can all promote for the Northern Washington Avenue area. And this would be a great opportunity, using this as the basis for that collaboration. So I'd like to say that we do have a PDF of the full market study, which will be put on the North Haven Economic Development Commission website as well as the town website. We also will have the Alyssa's presentation on those sites. There are limited copies of the hard copies of the presentation on the registration desk if you'd like to pick one up on your way out. So again, Alyssa will be here if you have any questions, and she'd be happy to address those. So now moving on, I'd like to introduce Mark Candido. He is the president and CEO of the Quinnipiac Bank. Mark, if you could come up and talk to us a little bit about the progress that Quinnipiac Bank is showing.
Good morning, thank you. Appreciate being here. It's a nice invitation to receive from Rich and from Michael Frieda. I look around the room and it's nice to see so many friends, investors, and for a small bank like ours, it's nice to be able to say so many customers already. I can't believe that of course we put a bank together for the reason that we believed the community needed it and that it would be welcomed, and it certainly really actually did exceed our expectations. Long story short, I hope I'm not too boring. I'll be 5 minutes at the most. Banking is typically boring as it is, but Rich gave me the opportunity to say funding opportunities, because as I was getting dressed, it's like, what do you talk about, history of the bank? Do they really want to hear why I opened the bank 7 years ago? Funding opportunities are pretty simple, especially for a company our size. We're $100 million in size, and we opened in March of '08. By some standards, that's still a little on the small side in comparison to some of the banks that have grown or had grown. I have to emphasize had grown more quickly, because most of those that grew more quickly are not around any longer. So far we're pretty successful at what we're doing. Regarding funding, and then I'll just back up a step after that. Legally, by the banking standards, the most we can lend is $1,700,000 in loans. We do loans from $10,000 up to $1,700,000. If we do have an SBA guarantee, we can go up closer to around $2,400,000. There isn't a loan that we will not discuss. There's no such thing as a book, I'll mention that in a minute, that says you can't touch this loan, don't look at that loan. We encourage people to come in to see how we can make truly that square peg fit in the round hole. We've done restaurants, gas stations, convenience stores, dry cleaners, apartment houses. Great one to emphasize, because a lot of the banks are out of it, is mixed use property. For our little guys that are operating on Dixwell Avenue and Dixwell Avenue in Hamden, we've got customers in Stonington, Fairfield. I got a call the other day from a friend of mine, president of a bank in Greenwich, who said, I'm leaving the bank for legitimate reasons. It was sold. I'm leaving. I've got a high net worth customer in Greenwich that I can't think of anybody else to refer him to but you. So we extend all over. We have customers in Enfield. We're all over the state for a little bunch of do-gooders that believe in the community, believe in helping and working with people. It's pretty simple on the funding side. In terms of products, we do commercial loans, commercial lines of credit, C&I loans, SBA loans, and we're creative when it comes to any other type of loan. As I said before, the mixed use, all those other products. We love listening. We invite you in, or we get in the car and run out to you, like all other bankers. We're not that much, we're not so exceptional above and beyond other banks. All banks are great. We have to go out of our way. Why? Because we need to grow the bank. We don't have the capital invested in people to be able to just be out in the street all the time. So it's us with our highly personalized, exceptional service. We cater to the community, we believe, and I have to say there are 22 people in our bank. Every one of them is the same mentality that I guess I'll say I have. I certainly didn't hire all 22, but I believe in the personal touch, the handshake. Sometimes I go overboard with giving a few kisses to women in the lobby to make you feel comfortable. We are warm, we're endearing, we listen, we never say no, and we hop in our car no matter when it is, believe me. And there's times when you go, oh my Lord, do I want to go out at this hour? An example just of our service is a couple things. 3 or 4 things I want to emphasize, and I won't bore you. One is, I have to say that we've been researching how we're getting business lately above and beyond the PR, the knocking on the doors, the chambers, and all the other things that we're involved with. Our best source of business over the last 4 months has been referrals from other bank friends that we have, VP, commercial lenders of banks that said, my bank won't let me do this. It's a customer of mine for 15 years. I can't do this loan. Do you want to go talk to him or her? It's just incredible. And just to emphasize that, Rich Evans, one of our VPs, and I got a call from who's going to be a customer saying, I went to Citizens Bank and I've been working on my loan for $1 million for 4 months with 4 of the larger banks in the greater New Haven community. Have not been turned down, but every time I turn around, they want another document. I talked to my friend at Citizens Bank. He said, don't tell anybody I told you. Call Mark Candido. They'll make the deal happen. Rich and I met the fella this is a well-known business. I hate to say it, they've been in business at least 50 years, and I'm relating it to me in grammar school, remember it being there in Branford. So they're in business 50 years. Rich and I went out on a Tuesday evening. We had it credit approved on the following Wednesday morning. Granted, the fella had his package, I guess having been beat up over so long over 4 banks, he had everything right there. So we walked away with a financial package. Our loan committee met on the following Wednesday morning, and the deal was done. This guy's in shock. He just can't even believe it. And some people would think, well, he must have been desperate. Maybe they're dropping their guard on quality of loans. We are not. He wasn't desperate. He showed us the 4 different, I'll call it pre-commitment letter, where we saw that they all had interest, but they all needed another this, another that. And by the way, he had no mortgage on the property, and it's appraised at $2,500,000. The person is just, he's amazed that we could pull it off. We do that more often than not. Just for the sake of equality of our bank to date, as I indicated, we're $100 million in size, 5.5 years old. We have not had a charge-off. We have not had a foreclosure. Our delinquency so far to date is not anything older than 30 days, and as soon as they seem to click at 30, we get paid with 1 phone call. I get calls every day because of the banking community and everybody out there trying to buy, sell, and flip OREO properties. I say, believe it or not, we don't have anything. So we just can't, there's nothing for me to offer you for sale. That's really about it for me. I'll mention one other thing. We hired somebody else in this room, vice president from Citibank, and as we were interviewing Tony Rossley, he happened to say to myself and Dick Barreto, before he took the job, he said, can I see your book of loans that you don't do? I said, we don't do? What do you mean? We never heard of that. You don't do. He said, I'm coming from an environment where I open a book and I say, we're not doing this loan, we can't do that loan, I can't do this loan. We said, there's no such thing. Bring in every loan possible. And one way or another, we will review it to the point of either making it happen or having a legitimate reason why we can't make it happen. But we want to talk to everybody. We're warm. We think we're warm and fuzzy. You get a cup of coffee, walk in the door. And so many times, especially with our new building, we're getting more compliments. And I just said to Dee from the Quinnipiac Chamber, stop in, there's no pressure, cup of coffee. All my friends, I have a lot of friends that don't bank with me, which is fine. And I could tell they'd love to see the building, but they're so worried that we're going to capture them and try to give them a sales pitch. We don't do that. You either bank with us because you like us or need us, or we don't need to and we'll still part friends. We'd love to talk to you about commercial loans. Again, there's nothing, let me just emphasize one thing, especially because of my background. I emphasize commercial loans because you have to be near and dear to the examiners to see how it works. My preference being, I'm technically old-fashioned street lender, gut instinct with people, and more retail lending than commercial. I certainly do both, but more retail, meaning I sympathize and feel for the little guy that can't get a loan for a myriad of reasons. That $10,000 customer, that fellow that called me last week, that's a former Hamden cop that needs some money for his daughter's wedding because the other side of the family said we're not going to kick in, and he's on his last, he doesn't know where to go next to scrape up $10,000 or $15,000. Truth be told, we grow our consumer business by virtue of dealing with commercial business, looking at your financial statement, and then try to cultivate business from there. Do you need a car loan? Do you need a home equity loan? We don't push the consumer back to the examiners because They're constantly on your back. How quick are you going to make money? How quick are you going to make money? You're losing money. How can you make money? You don't make much money on the small consumer loan. I can't even stand hearing it, but years ago in banking, I'll never forget my old boss. What are you working on a $10,000 loan for? It's a lot simpler to work on a $500,000 loan and make more money. I believe in the little guy, which is primarily why I started the bank. We're here, we're there. Feel free to call us anytime. As Alyssa? I'm sorry, Alyssa said, you got me more caught up with how well you spoke without looking down or anything. As Alyssa said, any questions for you, I'm happy to answer regardless of what they might be. Otherwise, have a great day. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question for
Yep.
you. When you were saying certain loans that you don't, now you're saying that you don't do investment property,
We do investment property.
but like rehabs and stuff like that, you do not?
We do rehabs.
Oh, you do that?
Yep.
Okay, I
Yep.
understood. No REOs, okay.
We have no foreclosure properties at all. I emphasize that more on the delinquency stage and the quality of our bank. We are the talk of the banking community. I've met with the banking commissioner, and he said to me, you have no idea of the franchise you've created in terms of everybody wants to be like you guys are. And we'll get a call every other day because there's peer reports that go out, and I'll get a call saying, how do you achieve these rates, or how do you achieve this, or how are you bringing in so much business? And I really think it's the personal touch, the warm, endearing, comfortable attitudes of all of us. There isn't a lot of magic to it, I can tell you that.
I definitely got to say thumbs up, especially with Tony. He's come seen us, and it was just exactly what you said.
Yep, thank you, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's good to know we have a friendly banker in the room, so please feel, I understand there's an event there tonight at the bank. It's a Hamden Chamber Business After Hours, so feel free to stop by and take a look at the new building if you haven't done so already. Now I'd like to introduce Stephen Glaze from the New Haven Group. Steve is going to talk to us about the housing complex that has been approved for Northern Washington Avenue. So Steve, please come up and talk about your project.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me this morning. Rich asked if I could give an overview of the project which we got approved over the last year and a half on Route 5 here on the east side of Washington Avenue. So we started this project, started looking at this site about 2 years ago, and I think a lot of what Alyssa spoke about, I think, is what we thought when we embarked upon this. Looking at what Quinnipiac was bringing to North Haven, clearly there was going to be a demographic change, and in looking at the strip of Upper Washington Avenue, we started looking at sites to say, okay, what would make a good apartment community, that could satisfy both the demand from people within North Haven and from the new demographics that were going to be coming in on the graduate campus side. So this is a rendering of what has been approved. We have 3 buildings on the site, and I'm going to walk you through. This gives you a sense. This is the Upper Washington Street Avenue, and the yellow is the amended zone that allows for now a mixed-use zoning, including apartments and commercial space. So our site, I don't have a red flicker here, but if you see the Quinnipiac campus, we're right where the B and the C is, right here. This is the former Daddy-O nursery site, which we just closed on. And in looking up and down the street, one of the challenges of the street is you don't have a lot of big sites to do, larger developments, which I think also is good because I don't think necessarily you want to build large apartment communities. But, this site was interesting in that it was not going to make a good retail development opportunity because it's a flag type of lot. You look at the frontage along Route 5, and there's only about 180 feet of frontage for a 4.5 acre site here. So the value of it from a retail development standpoint was not very good. But when you look at the nature of it, the site was shrouded by 60-foot white pine trees that bordered the back of the property and residential property. So it gave the site a very nice feel from a residential standpoint. So this is the site plan which has been approved, and what will be built here is 3 buildings totaling 125 units. The front building along Washington Avenue is a 4-story building with an elevator, and there's also going to be about 3,100 square feet of commercial space and retail space that fronts up along Washington Avenue. The mix of units ranges from studios, 1-bedrooms, and 2-bedroom units. There's roughly 25 studios, 51 1-bedrooms, and about 49 2-bedroom units. In discussions prior to designing the complex, we spoke with Quinnipiac to understand what their students or what they anticipated their students' needs were, and so that came into play as to how we designed the unit ratio. But I think it's clear when we also did our market study. What's interesting is Alyssa had referred to the community as being a little older. The median age of North Haven is about 5 years older than any of the surrounding towns. And I think part of the reason is when you look at the amount of opportunity for younger folks to move into town, there was a severe shortage of apartment units. If you look at all the surrounding towns to North Haven, they have roughly 3 times more apartment units per capita than North Haven does. So what I kept on hearing from people around town was that, my son and daughter graduated from college, they're working in the area, but, there aren't many opportunities other than their old bedroom to live in North Haven. So I think developments like this will help bring in a younger population. Certainly, it's gonna help satisfy some of the needs of what Quinnipiac is doing. But I think there's a larger demand out there. I think as evidenced by Alyssa's report. This is another rendering of a view looking southeast. This is the front building. As I mentioned, you're going to have retail along the front, and then you're going to have some amenity space on the first floor with a recreation room. There's going to be a leasing office on site, an on-site manager there, and then you'll have 3 floors above. On this first building, you'll have a balcony or deck off of each unit. But I think its design was such. We did a more flat roof look, although it's pitched, beneath the soffits there. But I think it gave it an interesting look that I think will certainly set the tone for better things to come on Washington Avenue. This is a look of the rear building. There's 2 buildings that will be 3-story walk-ups that will look similar to this. There's going to be a brick along the first floor, and along the towers you're going to see some brick accents. This is a floor plan of the front building. I apologize for the clarity, but you'll see along the right side is where your commercial space will be, and then you have you have a leasing office and some recreation space. This is a typical floor plan. You'll have a center core hallway with units off of this. On this building, you'll have 10 units on each floor. And again, a mix of studios, 1-bedrooms, and 2-bedroom units. So that is the overview on this. I think one last comment. I think Mike Frieda, I think, was instrumental early on in this. And I think he saw the vision. This site generates now about $15,000 to $20,000 of taxes. When this project is done, you're probably in the $200,000 to $300,000 range. And I think it's a situation where you're not necessarily impacting schools. You're not putting, it's not going to be a community where you're probably going to have a lot of families with school-age kids. So it's clearly going to be, I think, a benefit to the town from a tax standpoint. And it's also going to bring bodies there on a 24-hour basis that are going to help the overall retail development in the area. So thank you. If there's any questions, I'm happy to
I have one.
field some.
On the retail square footage on the bottom, you said how much is it?
There's about 3,100 square feet.
Do you have somebody already in mind?
No.
Okay.
Steve, are these three buildings going to be developed simultaneously, or are you going to do them as demand increases?
They would be done simultaneously.
What are we looking at price-wise for these?
The one bedrooms were priced they haven't. We'll see what happens to the market as construction begins and ends. But market studies indicate that one bedroom units are probably going to be in the $1,500 range. Two bedrooms probably in the $1,800 to $1,900 range, and studios probably somewhere around $1,000 to $1,100.
Does that include all utilities and everything?
That would tenants would pay their own utilities. The unit sizes are studios range about 500 to 600 square feet. The one bedroom units are about 750 square feet, and the two bedrooms run from 1,000 to 1,100 square feet. So they're good sized units. Thank you.
So more exciting news. Looking forward to seeing the construction start over on Washington Avenue. And I think it's going to be a great addition to our community and provide a place for young professionals to be able to live in North Haven and take advantage of the character of our town. Now, speaking of construction, I'd like to now invite Frank Hurd up to talk about what we call now, instead of the old Pratt & Whitney site, 415 Washington Avenue. And Frank will talk about the progress that is occurring over at that site. And he actually has some machinery on Washington Avenue getting ready to do some damage, I believe, Frank. So, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, I'm Frank Hurd from ORNL. We are very excited to be involved in the project at 409, 415 Washington Ave. As you know, the former Pratt site. The site includes about 165 acres, and then the old Pratt & Whitney factory, which is about 1,300,000 square feet. We're working with the owners. Our vision is for a regional industrial park with modern facilities, high-tech capabilities, and superior connection to the interstate highway system. We've got a lot of different designs of buildings. This one in particular, I think, was about 1 million square feet. We've had requests for preliminary designs on buildings anywhere from about 250,000 feet to over 1 million square feet. There's some more examples over here. You can see on that poster board, we've got a big group of buildings. So we could build anything from 100,000 square feet and up on the site. We have been working very closely with First Selectman Mike Frieda, CERC, DECD, and UI to promote the property. We're also working with Tony Rosigno and the Port Authority in New Haven to establish a foreign trade zone in the park. So that could be some exciting news coming down the road. We recently had visits from some national site selectors and some regional, national, and even international companies looking at the site. You can see why it is a good choice for so many of them. You can reach 58 million people within 300 miles of the site. Some of the comments that we got from some of the site selectors was that Southern Connecticut has not been on their radar for a very long time because there's no buildable land. Well, we clearly have buildable land. Once the buildings are down, it's going to be a great site. Some of the pluses that the site selectors and these bigger companies have seen is it's 165 acres. It's got great access to the highways. We've got potential rail sidings. Amtrak runs right along the side of the property. We've got access to New Haven Harbor, Tweed and Bradley airports. We're a 2-hour drive to Boston or New York City. and there's a workforce of 239,000 well-qualified people within 10 miles of the site. We can deliver new buildings from 100,000 square feet to over 1 million square feet by December of 2014. In just a couple of months, the site's going to look very different from how it does now. Demolition has started. The first buildings to go will be the old retail buildings out on Washington Ave in front of the site. They're going to come down in the next week or so. Demolition's also started on the big building in the rear at 1,300,000 square feet. That will take a little bit longer, but we'll be done with that probably later this winter. There's a lot of opportunity there. Obviously, we welcome the brokerage and business community to visit with us and talk to us about building a building. The ownership of the property is very proactive. We can get them up here for meetings, and as a matter of fact, we'll have a meeting with the first selectman next week just to give them an update on where we're at. And we're quite confident that there will be some real good news. We can't say when, but it will be good for North Haven and the whole state of Connecticut. So that's it. I've got packages of information if anybody wants them. If anybody's got a question.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Full of questions today. So, I'm the owner of Music Center and the Musical Forest Cafe, which abuts Pratt & Whitney. I have two questions for you. First question is, when you're ripping Pratt down, do we have any kind of worries about any like asbestos or anything that might hurt us physically over time? And are you going to contain that properly? And secondly, I wanted to know where the three outcrop buildings were up front. Are those going to be, I know you're going to take them down, are they going to become retail, or are they going to be part of the industrial park, more of like an office?
Okay, in answer to the first question, demolition is very different today from what it was 20 or 30 years ago. I call it a deconstruction process. So they're very, very careful. They have very stringent guidelines that they stay within, and you really have, you have no need to worry, and this is only going to be an improvement to the site. With regard to the land that's out front, we're really trying to hold on developing that, waiting to see what happens on the large piece of property. But I will say I've got a lot of inquiries from retailers on the front side already. Anybody else? Thanks, I'll be here. Anybody wants some more information, please come see me. Frank Hurd, thanks.
Thank you very much, Frank. It's exciting to see a lot happening in Northern Washington Avenue. It's been a focus of our first selectman, Mike Frieda, and things are finally coming to fruition. And I just want to point out that in actuality that the development of that area, it was not even included in the market study that Alyssa and Cirque did. And so that potentially has additional opportunities as that progresses. So Frank, we're looking forward to some good news in the future. So as I mentioned before, the Holiday Inn is going through a bit of a renovation, and Jennifer Candido from the Holiday Inn is here. I'd like to give her a few minutes just to talk about what's happening at this facility.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. So as Richard mentioned, we are undergoing quite a bit of renovations here, as you noticed when you pulled up in front of the property. There's quite a lot of scaffolding outside as we begin the exterior portion of our renovations. So long-awaited renovations, we're undergoing $2.5 million worth of renovations, both interior and exterior. As you can see, our ballroom has already been renovated. This was one of our first completions for the project. As you walk around the building on the interior, and feel free to, all of our guest corridors are being renovated. Our guest rooms are being renovated as well. We're adding a lot of new features to our guest rooms, and the whole exterior of the building is actually getting a whole brand new facelift. In preparation for a major change with this hotel, which is actually a flag change. For over 20 years, this hotel has been a Holiday Inn, and coming in November, our brand change, we will actually be changing brands, and we will be actually converting this property to a Best Western Plus. There's been a lot of changes within the Holiday Inn family, and unfortunately, unless we wanted to add a third floor to this building, we wouldn't be able to remain as a Holiday Inn, and that's about a $7 million renovation. And there's no guarantee of a return on investment after 5 or 10 years as with the franchise. So we've changed. We will be changing. The plan is November 15th. We will actually pull down the Holiday Inn sign and put up a Best Western Plus sign. It is a bittersweet for me because I've been here for 14 and a half years as a Holiday Inn, but I'm very excited about the change. I'm very excited about all of our renovations that are going on here. And I know a lot of people in the local community, businesses and so on have been looking for these renovations. So it is very exciting. A lot of things are happening. People are more than welcome to come and check out the facility. You're more than welcome to give me a call and come take a tour of the property. Just to give you a little background about Best Western, they are a 3-tier chain. So they have Best Westerns, Best Western Pluses, and Best Western Premiers. Best Western Plus is pretty much standard to, or in comparison to what we are now. It's a mid-tier range, just like Holiday Inns are. Couple of things will change. Best Western offers a lot more free amenities than Holiday Inn does, so we actually will be converting our breakfast over to a free breakfast to our guests, which will be a full breakfast buffet free of charge. We're adding refrigerators to all of our guest rooms. We've added 42-inch plasma TVs to all of our guest rooms. And just a lot of other free amenities and fun changes that are happening. So I hope you all enjoy our changes. I hope you all come to check out the facility as we're changing over. Like I said, it is a bittersweet for me, but it is a lot of exciting things that are happening here. We hope to have the whole property complete by the end of November, barring we have no major weather conditions that jeopardize the exterior portion of our renovation this year. So I thank you all very much. Please feel free to take a look. Feel free to come back and take a tour at any point in time if you want to see what's happening here.
So that's great news. And as we can see, there's nothing constant but change, which is what we like. So now to kind of conclude and summarize all that's been talked about this morning, I'd like to ask Mike Frida, our first selectman, to come up and talk about an update in terms of Northern Washington Avenue and other things that are happening in town. Mike?
Thank you very much, Rich. I'd like to thank everyone here for attending this morning. I'd like to thank our speakers. And I hope what you've seen today is the byproduct of 4 years worth of efforts and energy and work by a lot of people to try to create some exciting things that will be happening here in North Haven and in particular on Northern Washington Avenue. I always looked at Northern Washington Avenue as one of the greatest challenges that we've had here from an economic development standpoint in North Haven. It literally has been a story in 2 separate parts. The story of the old Pratt & Whitney site, and you heard today what's happening, and this is the beginning of what will be a project that will unfold over the next several years here that will be great for North Haven, bringing new businesses in, creating new jobs, and adding new tax dollars to the North Haven grant list. And we've really worked very closely with OR&L, and I'd like to commend their efforts in that area. We enjoy working with a lot of developers here in North Haven. And yet, the retail portion of Northern Washington Avenue, on the east side in particular, has been a great challenge. So we decided, Richard and I and the Economic Development Commission, to commission CERC, the Connecticut Economic Resource Center. And what we see here now are multiple opportunities. So I'd like to propose for your consideration, if you think that these opportunities are something that you'd like to pursue, we know that this will be the future of Northern Washington Avenue, and I'd like to meet with any developers, Personally, I'd like to meet with any commercial real estate agents who are handling properties. If you have any prospective tenants, I will host the meetings in my office. We will bring in our land use, zoning, and prior to any application being submitted, we'll bring in also the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We will look to simplify a process to help you get prepped to move forward to present to our Planning and Zoning Commission. I see tremendous opportunities here. One of the most discouraging things in the past 4 years has been that we've lost a lot of opportunities. Unlike my corporate business career, when you can make decisions, invest capital, move forward, acquire companies, assimilate businesses, change corporate cultures, in government it's a lot slower because the government can't control a lot of factors, particularly the price of the building or the price of the lease and square footage within those buildings. So we'd like to have you come in to see us, and I will host the meetings like I said. And we will move forward with a relentless, implacable focus here on Northern Washington Avenue to capture the opportunities that Alyssa demonstrated here and articulated. North Haven, and I didn't realize this until I started getting involved with issues at the state level, with commissions that I'm now part of, we're viewed very favorably here, and I was happy to hear that and see that. Although challenges remain, I can share with you that there are a lot of exciting things happening on Universal Drive. Over the next year or so, you're going to see some changes there. I'm very pleased with the fact that our State Street and Divine Street project has really been well accepted here in North Haven with the emergence of Yale New Haven Hospital, with the emergence of the efforts of OR&L with the new medical buildings that are being built. You're going to see a high-end animal surgical referral center that will be here very shortly. And of course, we've talked about the apartment complex that will be fitting right in that area very nicely, that really is designed to attract baby boomers who want to downsize out of their homes and move into more of an apartment complex. We have some exciting things happening that we're working on at our State Rail Commission in terms of trying to attract a railroad station depot on Divine Street at the site of the old Humphrey Chemical. Just this week, I'm now co-chairman of the Rail Commission from Springfield to New Haven, and we are working with the DOT to try to see if we can capture the federal funding to move forward with that train station depot down in that particular area, right near the commuter parking lots down there. As we move forward, I see other opportunities here, and one is in the form of senior housing for those senior citizens who are income restricted and who are looking to come out of their homes and move into a more affordable type of area that right now we have in North Haven at Temple Pines, Stephen Woods, and Woods Edge. These are facilities that we have senior citizens living, income restricted, and we have almost 400 seniors now on the waiting list to get into those facilities. So if there are any developers here who are interested in meeting with me to discuss senior housing, I would be more than happy to set that meeting up. I will bring in members of the Department of Economic Community Development, the DECD. We will explain to the developers how the tax credits work at a state level. And this is another market demand that we have here in North Haven that I'd like to try to capitalize on. So as we sum it up, North Haven continues to move forward. Do we have challenges remaining? Of course we do. Are we prepared to meet the challenges? Absolutely. This administration, after 4 years, may have had a few successes, but there are still many remaining challenges. And I can tell you that on behalf of myself, the administration, and our Economic Development Commission, we are totally focused, totally energized to continue to move North Haven forward as one of the great towns and cities here in the state of Connecticut. And with that being said, if there are any questions for me, I would like to entertain questions if you have any. Can I answer any questions? Yes, John. Good, John.
Changes or updates on Valley Service Road?
Yes. We are working with our town engineer, Jonathan Bodwell, We're working with OR&L on this project and the Rabina Properties and their legal department on finalizing the conveyance of that road over to the town of North Haven. We have approximately $1.6 million of funding that's locked in that North Haven has available to us. So we are finalizing the legal agreement. We're hoping that we can get this done very shortly. And what this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that if we can get that road conveyed to us, that would open up Valley Service Road from Route 22 all the way through Route 5 and not have any adverse effect on Defco Park, and it would go into a different direction and not affect our businesses there. So John, that's really what's happening. We're in the final stages. To give you a baseball analogy, we're probably in the bottom of the 8th inning on that right now. And we hope that we can be as successful as Mariano Rivera was in closing that out in the 9th inning. That's my goal. So we're warming up in the bullpen, preparing to come in and close it off. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you talked about,
Jim, yes.
yeah, Jim, elderly housing.
Yes.
What about Huntsville Manor? Anything developing on Route 22 with that property?
That's a great question, Jim. And we're working very closely with Chris Nolan. And we've had 3 different opportunities to try to turn that into senior income restricted housing, or for seniors who are income restricted. But we have not been able to put anything together. And I'll just speak in general terms on this. It kind of refers back to what I said earlier. One of the dilemmas that government has is we can't control the pricing structure. And when you can't control the pricing structure, sometimes we lose a lot of transactions and potential deals. So that is the main focus. It's an outstanding question. Chris Nolan and I are working very closely together with Dave Melillo, and we're trying to figure out a solution there. And that, I think, is the right solution. But is it going to happen as we stand and sit here today? No, it's not happening right now. But we're continuing to try to see if we can turn that into senior housing. Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much. It's always a great pleasure to be here.
Well, folks, I want to again thank you all for coming. I want to thank the Holiday Inn, soon to be Best Western Plus, and all our speakers. And we've gotten some really good economic development news, and we're going to pursue those, as Mike said, to the best of our ability. So with that, we're pretty much on time. I'd like to try to get you guys out by 9:15, which we're right on schedule. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you in the spring with some more good news.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube.